This is the North American frontier. It's a place so cold that I could freeze in broad daylight. I'm gonna have to survive here until springtime, and let's just say that it's not gonna be easy. So the first day, I really am alone. There is nothing nearby, and it is already freezing. If you look below, you can see my temperature bar. It is 44 degrees out, which is cold enough to kill me. First thing I need to do is to get some wood so that I can make a fire. Second thing I need to do is find a decent spot so I can make a basic shelter. One thing I forgot to mention is that I also have a water bar, as you can see, which means I do have to get water and filter it, because then I could die from dehydration as well. So I spent the first few minutes just getting basic resources. I got some stone so I could make stone tools. I made a furnace. Then I got some charcoal so that I can make my fire. Then I decided to go into the woods, and I encountered some bears. Yeah. These bears just keep chasing me. It's actually so annoying. I got lucky with some sheep, so I did get enough wool to make a bed. One thing that was slowly killing me, though, was my dehydration. So I did have to get the water situation figured out. I basically got some orange sand, which I could turn into glass to make some water bottles. Basically how it works is you just take the water from the lake or whatever, and then you filter it in the furnace by heating it up. I moved my whole setup out of the woods because of how annoying the bears were getting, and I kind of just slept out in the open the first night. Not the best, but it's something. I didn't get attacked, so it's fine, I guess. Day 2 and 3 were mostly spent by me just getting wood. I did want to make a base for myself, even if it was just something small, but it needed to be cozy and it also needed to be safe. I was scouting out where I wanted my base, but I decided to have it near the lake because it's an easy water source and it also has a really nice view. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I want to do a small hut. Not sure yet, but I don't have that much wood, so we're just going to have to make do with this. The base was actually coming along pretty well, and I decided just to go for like kind of this small hut kind of look. I spent a lot of time just getting orange sand that I could turn into glass. I was pretty lucky to spawn somewhere where, sand did spawn, which is another reason why I chose the lake, because I really love designs where you have like a bunch of windows, so I wanted kind of this hut to be really open. Just finishing up the roof, I decided to add these panels on the outside just using trapdoors, and I think it added just a little bit, makes it look a little better. It's not the best looking base, but I think it's not bad. So I started decorating the inside of the base, and I had enough wool to make a double bed, so it was kind of cozy. I moved the campfire in there, and it instantly started to become really cozy, which I really liked. After I finished the base, I decided to go on a short mining trip, which quickly became really dangerous. Oh my god. Holy crap. One shot away from killing me. And it's freaking cold. I'm freezing right now. And that's not the only time I nearly died. No. Dude, I'm freaking freezing right now. Holy. I need a campfire. I'm gonna craft a campfire. I quickly realized that mining in the cold winter it really sucks. It really sucks. You're not only dealing with mobs, but you're dealing with just staying warm. Other than nearly dying, I was pretty lucky. I did find a good amount of iron, which was really good. I could make better tools and possibly armor eventually, which would also help with staying warm and protecting myself.
Dude, I can't freaking see. Oh my god.
And because of the shaders, it was super dark in the caves, so I had to choose between holding my torch, attacking, or using my shield, which I preferred to have my shield in my offhand rather than a torch, and it's just really sketch. Because of that experience, mining in the caves became one of my least favorite things to do. And to be honest, I didn't really mine much in the caves after that. The good thing was that I had some iron now, so I could make iron tools, and eventually I was saving up for iron armor. The next day, I kind of just went hunting for a little bit because I was a little bit low on food. And honestly, I wanted to fix the food situation, so I was thinking about making a small farm. It's really hard to grow crops in the wintertime. I decided to go exploring for a little bit, and I went across the lake, which had frozen now, and it quickly dropped in temperature. And yeah. So a storm hit, and I was already freezing quickly. I had to make it back to base before I froze to death. Once I got home, I warmed up a little bit, and I actually decided to go outside to check out the storm because you can't help but admire it. It's actually incredible looking. So after the storm had passed, I did actually go back into the caves to get more iron. And it was just as bad as I was expecting.
Ooh! Ooh! Ooh!
Close fight, Kirsten?
But I did need iron armor, and I needed better tools, so it was kind of worth it. And I did stumble across some diamonds.
Yes!
Not a lot, but enough to make me happy.
Oh, three diamonds. Yes.
There was a ton of mobs in the caves, but luckily I was more prepared this time, and I kind of knew what to expect. I did make it out alive, but on my way back to home, it was nighttime, and I was just getting swarmed by mobs. I couldn't see a thing.
Oh my god. We can't see. Building.
So I built up a little.
Oh, shoot.
And I just sprinted back to base, and I made it home safely.
Let's go. Made it home. Made it home. Not bad.
And I had a bunch more iron and diamonds and a bunch of goodies from the caves. And it was good because I was able to upgrade my armor and have better tools now. To be honest, I felt a lot safer now that I had a full set of iron armor. And the next thing I wanted to do was to make a small animal farm. Yet again, because it's really hard to grow crops in the wintertime. I ended up just going out and getting a bunch of wood. Figured maybe I'm just going to make a small little farm. Eventually I wanted to get enough wood so that I can make a larger base. And hopefully a base that could have a little storage unit, maybe 2 floors tall, something a little bit larger. So yeah, spent most of the time just getting wood. I got pretty lucky. I stumbled across some chickens and I happened to have some seeds. So I just, kind of lured them into a hole and then trapped them. And yeah, now they're my pets. This is really good because now I get eggs to make more chickens. And if I ever get really hungry, well, yeah. Anyways, my small little animal farm is done. Really quick, really simple, quick food source. The next thing I wanted to do is finally work on my base. And this time the base is going to be much larger. I was just exploring near my base and then I saw this random wandering trader just come over, and so I just got rid of him so I can get his camel, or is it llama? Camel? I'm not sure. But yeah, I basically got a free lead and I just pretty much stole his camel. Day 15. So I had a lot of extra iron to spare, so I decided to make a camera, but I couldn't use it yet because I still had to craft film, which is kind of pricey. Day 16. Honestly, just wanted to go exploring. I already got a bunch of wood and I was going to start building my base in a few days. But first, kind of just wanted to see the area. I hadn't really explored that much outside of the lake, so I kind of just wanted to see what's on the other side of this hill. And honestly, getting to the top of this hill, I saw a pretty crazy view. So I kept exploring and I actually found a village on the other side of the hill. And what I realized is that these villages contain a lot of valuable loot. Compared to vanilla Minecraft, they actually have decent stuff and they're actually much larger in size. So I found a lot of food, a lot of farming material. I found this wine sort of thing. I don't know what any of this is, but I took it with me because it's kind of cool looking. Maybe it could make for some good decorations for my base. And then, yeah, and then once I looted the village, I got some good stuff and I headed back home to the base. So after getting wood for a few days, I finally got to start on my new base. I didn't really have any inspiration for the base. I kind of just make up these bases as I go. But over the past few days, the base was coming along pretty well. When I was chopping down trees, I actually noticed that there was a village nearby.
Oh, there's a village here?
And the villages here are really nice. They're better than normal villages. And I actually found a lot of enchanted books.
Oh my god.
So I was just kind of just stealing the whole time. And I took a lot of these goodies back to base and it was really good. My new base was coming along pretty well.
Holy, these logs are so black. It's just the shader, but like it's just so.
Looks like a table I'd use for eating.
I decided I wanted a 2-story design, and I think it's going to turn out really nice, and I wanted it to be very, very cozy. I spent most of my time just getting a bunch of wood, and in this mod, basically it's really hard to get wood because it takes forever to punch down trees. So I ended up just crafting a bunch of wooden axes so I could chop down a lot of trees. As I was building the base, I decided for my main light source to be these lanterns. And I got most of them from these villages. I didn't make any of them. I kind of just stole them from the villages because they already had a bunch of them. And they look kind of cool, so it's really nice. I went with a similar design to my last base, which is, the little hut, but this time just on a larger scale. I wanted a lot of windows. I love seeing out the windows, and this is a really nice location, so I had a little storage area for it, just kind of separate. I wanted to make the kitchen really nice, and I actually came up with this really, really good design in the kitchen where I want an infinite water source. If you have water bottles and you take from the cauldrons, they eventually drain. And they're kind of just there for cosmetic purposes, to be honest. But below that, I made a little 2x2 that's like kind of tucked under the house. And if I sneak just in the right spot, or I get just in the right spot, I could actually just get water from that 2x2. And I have an infinite water source that I could just, cleanse into purified drinking water. So it's really cool. Then I decided to start working on my storage area, which just was a few chests. To be honest, this is really small for like a storage area, but since it's only me, I'm only playing for 100 days, I think this is good enough. I decided just to do a simple design, and it's good enough. Then I eventually got item frames so I could label what I wanted in each chest. And also all the stuff I stole from the villages, I also put in there too, like utility stuff, like that fermentation thing, which I'd never really used, but yeah, some cool stuff, and it looks really nice, so it's really great. The next thing I did was build the patio, which I wanted to keep it really simple, maybe just put a bench there, and most importantly, just kind of enjoy the view. It honestly made a really nice extension to the house, and I think it kind of completed the base overall. After spending a lot of days on the base, most of it was finally done. I wouldn't say completely done, but the base was pretty much finished. Could use a little bit more decorations, and maybe I was going to make small adjustments here and there, but I was pretty happy with it. So there was a storm outside, and I spent most of my time inside the base just organizing things, and figured it's probably a good time to show you what I built. So this is the kitchen area. It's pretty nice. I think it's one of my favorite areas, and there's a fireplace here. And to be honest, there's a fireplace in every room because of how cold it gets. And then the patio I talked about, really simple. This is the storage area, pretty simple, nothing too crazy. Just enough to hold all my stuff, and doesn't have to be too much. And then we have the upstairs area, which is my bedroom, and I really like it. I really like this open design. I just kept it really clean, a little table, and then figured maybe I'd add more decorations in the future, but overall, it's pretty nice. After the storm had passed, I just kind of spent time organizing my stuff, transferred all of my stuff from the small hut I built earlier, all to the base. The next thing on my bucket list is definitely going to be to explore more. I only really explored 2 villages, but I do want to travel much further because there are so many biomes. One thing that did catch my eye was this village that was on top of a mountain. I knew it was going to be risky traveling there because of how cold it would be, but why not? So the next day, went traveling to that village. And to my surprise, yeah, it was freezing. The higher up I went, the colder it got. And at nighttime, I think I recorded a temperature of 9 degrees, which is horrible. It's horrible. Could freeze within a few minutes. Luckily, the village did have campfires, so I was able to stay warm enough to survive, but even the campfires were close to not being enough. So overnight, I didn't really get to see the sunrise, but the storm was still here, and it was extremely cold, but the village had some decent loot, and the view was pretty incredible. And also, after exploring a bit, there was another village on the other side of the mountain, which I also decided to explore. By the time I got to the village, the storm was starting to clear up. And out of all the villages I looted, this one easily had some of the best loot because there was this little castle area, and after looking around for a while, there was a chest that had a diamond in it, which is, I mean, I know I'm exaggerating, but I mean, that's some pretty good loot. And then I explored various other buildings, which had a bunch more enchanted books, food, just miscellaneous stuff that were pretty valuable. Overall, this village had a ton of great stuff. So I made the most of it, and then I started heading back to base. On the way back up the mountain, I was getting stuck up the snow in broad daylight, which is funny. I didn't actually get stuck when it was the blizzard, but I was getting stuck when it was a clear day, which I know it has nothing to do with that, but it's just kind of funny. I was lucky to see a lot of iron, actually. So there was a lot of iron deposits on the mountain, which was great because I hate mining in the caves. So honestly, on the way back, whatever opportunity I could to get iron, I did. So I would just kind of went iron mining a little bit because it's free iron and it's way safer than being in the caves. I pretty much stayed near the village overnight, and on the way back, another storm had hit. And I was traveling back home, another storm was here, and some of the views I saw were pretty incredible. But I actually made it home safely, and I had a ton more loot to deposit. These villages were really coming in handy when it came to getting better loot, so it was great. Spent the night just organizing all the stuff I had gotten from the villages. Then I slept. Then when I woke up, I decided that I should probably craft a rifle. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that there's actually a gun mod, so I can craft guns, but some of them are really expensive, so I can craft a basic rifle, but it just costs a lot of metal. But I actually had a lot of iron now that I got it from the mountains, so I made a rifle.
Whoa. There you go. I think it looks sick. Alright, it's 12 gauge.
And the ammo wasn't too expensive from what I could see.
Copper nugget, 2 gunpowder. It's actually
That's pretty easy.
It's reasonable.
Now that I had the rifle, I could protect myself, and I mean, it's way better than a bow. The next day, I was exploring the forest and kind of going back to that one village.
There's horses or something, cause like, dude, there was these white horses that were like around this area, but they like just disappeared. After I made the saddle, of course, they're gone. Like, it's too late.
Oh yeah. Oh damn.
Oh, and I also encountered a bear.
Whoa! Whoa!
Yogi Bear's coming to play.
I was just kind of exploring, but then I did stumble across a dog, and it occurred to me, I'm like, I do actually want a pet.
Oh. Dude, I need a dog so bad.
So I went back to base to get some bones, and believe it or not, I actually got the dog on the first try. The dog loved me the first try, which that's how I knew he was the one.
Oh, ooh! Instant! Instant! He instantly loves me. Oh my god. Alright, let's go.
And I didn't find a name tag, sadly, so I didn't really get to name the dog.
Hey. Have some food.
Oh, you did it.
Oh, look at him.
He almost just got burned, bro.
Almost just got burned. Be careful. Be careful.
It's crazy to me that it has already been nearly 50 days since I've been here. And to be honest, I've been making really good progress. The first few weeks were really rough, especially on those mining trips. But now that I have a good base, I have armor, I have a gun now, it's honestly not too bad. But exploring still could be very dangerous, especially when it gets really cold. And yeah, there's still mobs. I mean, it's still Minecraft. But it's not too bad. Learn how to combat the heat. I always carry a campfire with me or magma blocks to warm me up. And it's getting easier, I'd say. We're still a long ways from springtime, but we are doing pretty well overall. Funny enough, I was back to getting wood, so I crafted a bunch of wooden axes so I could cut down some trees.
Oh.
Next thing I wanted to build was a proper farm. Now, since it is wintertime and it's super cold outside, I decided that I wanted to make a little greenhouse. So the idea was that it would insulate the farm from like the harsh outside environment, and maybe I would heat the whole thing with like magma blocks or something. As I was working on it, my friend and I were having a little conversation about what a 9-to-5 was, if that scares some of you. Certainly scared me.
You know what a 9 to 5 means, bro?
What, John?
Yeah, like you know what the meaning actually means.
You go to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Nah, bro, you work. No, I saw a comment about someone who talked about what a 9 to 5 was. They said you work 5 days a week for 9 hours.
5 days a... Oh. Well, I guess it could also mean that.
Yeah, but I always thought it was just like from 9 to 5. Well, yeah.
So it's both. It's actually both. Or is that 9
Well,
hours?
technically, it's not. It's not 9 hours,
Is
bro.
that
That's 8 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty scary conversation overall. But anyways, the greenhouse is going pretty good. I was getting the base foundation nearly finished. I went ahead and got more sand so I could turn that into glass. And I was just going to keep the same visual style as my other bases.
Like, to go to college.
One of my later goals was still to get the film camera to work. I needed to craft film, and one of the resources needed for that was kelp. And I still haven't found an ocean nearby, and to be honest, I haven't done enough exploring, but I don't think there's any oceans that are really close, so it's going to take a while before that happens. And I also realized that I was overdue for a mining trip. I think after I finish this greenhouse, I'm probably going to do a short mining trip and also try to find an ocean. I had a clever design where I would kind of just sneak a bunch of magma blocks under the water so the water would be heated, and then I would just cover the whole thing up with a half slab so that I could walk over it, but the farm still has a water source from below. So I spent most of the night finishing up the glass, and in the morning time, well, it was pretty close to being done. The only thing I needed to do was to finish the roof with a glass outline, and then also turn the dirt into soil. So I went back and I got more sand so I could turn that into more glass. And after that, I was pretty close to being done. We had finally made it to day 50. Spring was around the corner, and I knew for the next 50 days that I wanted to do a lot more exploring. But first, I still needed to finish the farm. Next thing I needed to do was to convert the dirt into soil, which for some reason in this mod took multiple clicks to get it to change, which is interesting. Not sure which mod it is, but yeah. Then I finished the glass roof, and then the farm was finally done. And it turned out really nice. Then I spent the next day just organizing the base. I had a lot of loot that I just still needed to organize. So once everything was organized, I decided to start gathering items I think I needed for my adventure. And honestly, I hadn't really planned on where I wanted to go, but I saw a little river on my minimap and I decided why not follow it. So the next day, I started on my journey. So I was heading to the river and there was still a storm going on, but it wasn't too bad. I got in the boat and I started heading down the river. As I was heading down, I was kind of just looking around, and I did pass an illager outpost, which I decided to avoid because I could not afford fighting and I didn't have much ammo, and I more wanted to explore anyway rather than fight. As I was continuing down the river, night crept up, and eventually I just kept traveling until I found kind of a dead end spot, and then I placed my bed and slept overnight. And in the morning, the sunrise was pretty beautiful actually. I continued along the river, and after traveling for a while, I did eventually come across another village. But by the time I got to the village, I was starting to freeze. And to be honest, I didn't really look at my body temperature, so I didn't realize I was freezing. But luckily, the furnace saved me. I was cooking just wood just to keep me warm, and then eventually I crafted a campfire. And after looting the village for a little bit, I headed out. So I continued along the river, and yet again, night was kind of creeping up. The river was actually really large, and it twisted a lot. It was actually kind of heading back near home, so I wondered if the river looped around back to home. And it was getting night soon. I actually spotted an unfinished nether portal. And I forgot to mention that I can't access the nether in this mod. Now, I could go there, but since I have the temperature mod, I would just instantly burn to death just by being in the nether, which like theoretically it is possible, but yeah, it just wasn't worth it. So then I slept near the nether portal, then I woke up and I kind of wanted to explore this really cool cave area. So I rowed my boat around and I kind of just took a look, and it was really beautiful. Although I didn't really care for mining and I kind of just wanted to explore more, so I quickly left. I continued further down the river, and to my surprise, the river actually did kind of make a loop. Not perfectly, but it did get really close to the base, and it actually kind of connected to that one village I looted a lot earlier. So I decided just to call it, and so I picked up my boat and I just headed back to base. But now I realized that the whole river kind of made a big loop, which was very interesting. So I made it back home safely, kind of just rested up a little bit, checked on my dog, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Now, sadly, although I did do a good amount of exploring, I still didn't find an ocean, and I wanted to find an ocean so that I could craft film because I needed kelp. So sadly, that was still on the bucket list, but for now, I just kind of hung out at my base. I spent another day just kind of organizing stuff in the base. I was smelting a bunch of ore that was just left in my chest. And the next day, I decided to craft a clock. And it was pretty cool because it actually told me the day I was on. And it came in really handy. And I also made a camera stand, which is kind of cool. It's basically just a tripod. And when I eventually craft film, I'm going to be really excited to use it. Day 61. It was finally time to start looking for an ocean. I really wanted to get my film camera working. And I crafted it like, I don't know, 30 days ago. I just haven't used it since. The next big project I wanted to do was to photograph all the nice landscapes nearby and maybe build a tiny little museum or something for my photos. So I went all the way down the same river, and this time near the dead end, I decided to keep going. And I knew eventually I was gonna find an ocean. I just don't know how many days I was gonna spend out here. As I kept exploring, it was pretty nice. I discovered this really nice plains biome, which to be honest, I haven't seen too much of. And then in the distance, I stumbled across a village. But to my surprise, I think I might have found an ocean. And, well, it was an ocean somehow. It wasn't a big ocean, but it counted. And it had kelp. I took my boat out and I went underwater to harvest a bunch of kelp. And to be honest, film only requires like, I think, 1 or 2 kelp per roll, which I was only going to craft maybe like 4 rolls total. But I decided just to grab a bunch because why not? And this village was pretty nice. It was kind of like this coastal village, different style compared to the other ones. And, you know, if I were to pick one village to live at, I'd probably live at this one. And to be honest, I really love this spot. It's kind of this nice plains view right next to the mountains, and it's right next to the ocean too. Really nice location for this village. Before I went to sleep at the village, I was kind of just admiring the sunset, and it was really, really nice. The next day, I looted the village a little bit more. Then I decided to cross the ocean. And just like it showed on the minimap, it wasn't that big. On the other side though was a lone tree, which I decided to check out. And it was a pretty nice spot. Stayed there overnight, and then I started to head back home. On the way back, I stumbled on another one of these like cavern looking things, and it was really cool. And this time I wanted to go further in, and it just kept going. In fact, it went so far, I thought that it would actually go through the mountain, but to my luck, it didn't. But I was so far in already, I kind of was just stubborn. So I started digging, and I dug through the whole mountain until I made it out the other side. And yes, that actually led back to the same river that I took a few days ago. Pretty crazy. So I took my boat back up the river and started heading back home. And I was really happy that I finally had some kelp and I could now craft film. Now, black and white film is really cheap. Color film, on the other hand, is not so cheap. And in fact, I don't even think it's possible for me to get color film because it requires stuff from the nether. But I'll find a way for me to get color film. But yeah, I just continued down the river and eventually I slept overnight on the side of the river. I continued going along and I was really excited to craft some film when I got home. So after a few minutes, I finally made it back home, checked on my dog. I hung out at home for a little bit, and the next day, I decided to go out and get some flowers. Now, the reason I needed flowers was because I could turn them into dyes, and in order to develop the film, I needed multiple different colors, such as cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Then I went back to the farm to harvest and plant a bunch more seeds. And the farm was actually doing really well, which, despite the cold temperatures, I was actually surprised. Maybe my magma design was working after all. A few days later, I eventually made some adjustments to my base. I kind of wanted to expand this part out a little bit so that I could have more space for my little photography editing area. So after finishing that, it turned out pretty good, I'd say. It actually looked a little better with it than without it, so I think it's a good upgrade. So the next thing I was building was my little photography museum, which the idea was that once I had taken a bunch of photos, I would store all the huge photo frames in here. So I spent the next few days to continue working on the little photography museum, and it mostly consisted of just getting wood and glass and the usual ordeal. As I continued to work on it, I did end up going back to the villages to get more lanterns. I also traveled up to the mountain village because I did want to loot a little bit more decorations. As I was heading up the mountain, I was trying my best not to freeze to death and trying not to get stuck in the snow. Eventually, I cleared the mountain and I went to the village on the other side. Now all I needed to do was replace the floor with stone. I headed down to the cave to get more stone because it was actually hard to find stone at the surface, and I encountered some mobs, but at this point it was no issue, especially with my shotgun. After killing some mobs and getting stone, I went back upstairs to finally finish the floor. And after spending a few days on this, it was finally finished, so pretty proud of that. So my idea for the last 10 days was to take my camera and photograph all the beautiful landscapes, but I still needed more resources for the film. I didn't have that much paper, so I went to some villages to find some paper. As I continued looting the villages, I did find more enchanted books, which was really nice. As I was exploring, I found a really cool looking forest that actually had like amethyst and stuff, and they had really nice looking flowers, like these blue and purple looking flowers, which honestly looked really, really nice. So I harvested a bunch of the flowers and I took it back home. Oh, that was a long trip, but I'm pretty glad I got the flowers, said hi to my dog, and decided just to rest up at home for a little bit. The next day, I was kind of just outside the house and I saw a random fox.
Whoa. That's pretty cool.
After that, I killed more squid so that I could harvest them for their black dye. After that, I decided to put a bunch of campfires in the museum because it was really cold in there. Then I decided that it was finally time to make film. But first, I needed to smelt the kelp that I had. Then, when I was about to craft black and white film, I realized that I needed some bone meal. So I went back into the caves to look for some skeletons.
It's my last.
So I finally made it back up, and I finally now get to craft my first ever high resolution color film and black and white film.
Day 80.
And I actually crafted one more of each, so then I could finally start my photography journey. So the next day, I was prepping for my photography trip. I repaired some of my tools. I crafted a diamond battle axe because I had no use for diamonds. I also cooked up some purified water, and I had a bunch of steak. And after organizing everything, I think it was finally time for me to start my journey. So I decided to start with black and white film, and I was testing it just outside. That was the first photo I took. It's not extraordinary, but not horrible either. The thing about this mod, it is pretty technical. You do have things like shutter speed, which, if you don't know, if you don't nail your shutter speed, your image could look either too bright or too dark, and if there's things moving in the frame, then they can look too blurry. One thing that was pretty cool about this camera was that it technically had a zoom lens, which means you could zoom in and out. Now the range wasn't crazy, but it was enough for me, and personally, just the right amount of zoom. And for my photographers out there, I think it's an 18 to 55, which is kind of the sweet spot for me at least. As I was exploring, another storm had hit, and it changed the mood very quickly. So I adjusted my shutter speed for brighter photos, and I ended up getting some really moody photos that I loved. This river shot's probably one of my favorite shots of the squid in the river. It just captures the mood so good. I think that the atmosphere and the fog, as well as the way that the trees are layered, just adds so much depth and dimension to the photo. I also like the low angle looking up. I think it's very naturalistic, it's very humanistic. My next favorite photo was this of the birds flying in the air with the sun. But I was really glad that it was a cloudy day, or I guess a stormy day, for the black and white photos because it just fits the mood so well. And then I started heading back home. I took photos of my dog. Then I went back outside to watch the sunset. And it was kind of this like nice and stormy sunset. The sun was very weak because it was being filtered through the clouds. And I decided to go on the lake because the lake had some cool reflections. And there was actually some birds on the lake, so I also really like these photos too. Then after the sunset, I went to bed. Then the next morning, I decided to continue on into the forest. And there was a lot of shots I wanted to get, but yet again, I had the mindset of, oh, I was shooting black and white, so, you know, it's a little bit different. And then I saw this cool flower, decided to take a photo. The next photo I really liked was when I continued near the mountain. On the way to the mountain, there's this lone tree that I keep seeing. It's usually where I go to start my river adventure. This is kind of the spot. And this lone tree here is probably one of my favorite spots. So I took a photo of it. So I made my way back up to the top of the mountain, and another storm had rolled in. And I had gotten a few more moody shots that I'd really liked. Then I went back down, took a picture of the donkey, or camel, I don't know which one it is. And then I went to bed. The next day, I was kind of just messing around with the film camera on the lake in third person mode. And then I accidentally used up my whole roll of film just by accidentally spam clicking. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate, but I honestly got some pretty decent photos. I'd say about a quarter of my black and white photos I was happy with, which pretty good for my first time. Not used to the square format, and I'm not used to Minecraft black and white film, so that's something. The next day, it was time to try out the color film. So I was really excited. The black and white films already got me super excited, and they turned out pretty great. And the color ones were going to turn out even more amazing. So it was, I can't wait to try it. This photography mod is amazing. And I found out, well, you're seeing the photos when I shoot them, but I found out that you could export the photos onto your PC, so that's what I did. That's how you're able to see the photos in real time. I ended up not really needing to print the photos in Minecraft when I could just show them to you on my PC, so it was no big deal about going to the Nether. Anyways, the last few days of Minecraft, I was just photographing all the landscapes, and for the last 2 to 3 minutes, I'll just let the gameplay speak for itself.
Yeah, that's a good photo. It looks better, honestly, widescreen, but it's not bad on camera. That's a pretty good photo. Dude, oh my god, stupid horse. Back up. Back up, back up. Why do you need to go this way so bad, huh? 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 You want to be front lit? No, you want to be back lit. You want to be back lit so I have more three-dimensionality to my photos. Holy moly. Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you.
So, after my last photography trip, I was really happy with all the color photos and all the black and white photos, and it has been a journey. I spent the last few days just resting at home with my dog, and just like that, it was day 100. Wow, we finally made it to day 100. We finally made it to day 100. That was crazy. Honestly, it went by pretty fast. I am super glad to have done this kind of winter survival series. The photography mod, that was pretty cool. The first few weeks were pretty brutal, to be honest, but after that, I got the hang of it, and yeah, we made it to spring. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave comments down below, and most importantly, give me suggestions for video ideas and whatnot, so I'm always going to read the comments. But yeah, my dog and I lived happily ever after. And I'll see you guys in the next one.